Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Getting High on Leadership series. I'm your host, Rob Sanchez, and we are joined by Paul Karasik, author of the book. We are making our way through his book here, section by section, chapter by chapter, with conscious leadership in mind. Today's section is called The Rest is Commentary, and it can be found on page 104. And as always, you could grab a book for yourself to follow along with us, and the link in the show notes. Paul, I think we've talked a little bit about setting rules, about cutting to the truth of things, or finding that consciousness within many of the managerial things that happen around leadership life. Mm-hmm. I think this section really draws all of that to a nice bookmark or finishing point. But What do you think about about this section and kind of the narrative angle you went at telling the story?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite old stories. Sometimes I'm afraid I put these stories and everybody's heard them, but they haven't, because they've been around such a long time. And it's about the way we treat each other, and that's at the core of it. And we've all heard about the golden rule, since we're children, and it's in business. It's the same rule. It doesn't change because you're doing business. You don't treat your friend the same way as good as you treat yourself, and then treat people in business differently. It's for everybody. It's the golden rule for everybody. And how would I want to be spoken to? How would I want people to react to me and what I'm asking them to do, or where I'm leading them, or whatever the case may be? And so often, I see it, God, Rob, it's horrible. It's so toxic when you see these kind of leaders treat the people so poorly, with such disdain. It's shocking. And then expect them to really work and produce and deliver.
Yeah, right. Like after you just cut the ground out from under them, now you're going to send them back to work.
Oh yeah, please get that to me
brilliant
on time
output
by Friday. Hey, nobody on. If you're listening to audio, you didn't see what I just my gesture just there. But that's what they say. Hey, screw you, And the problem with this whole thing, and let's get really, really real here, as Van Morrison would say. You can't treat somebody better than you treat yourself. I'm thinking of a particular boss who runs I don't know if I mentioned this story, stop me if I did, but a particular boss who owns a professional baseball team, and Major League Baseball team. And a friend of mine works for him. He's actually is president of the whole operation. But this guy is one of those toxic leaders. And everybody quits. And the place is just filled with, that anger, the way he talks to people and treats them. How could they stay? The cost of replacing somebody moderately, a middle-level manager, is $500,000. And that's based on old stats. think about it. The position's open, loss of productivity, getting the new person, the cost of just hiring somebody, if you're going to pay a headhunter, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Minimally, the number's probably up to $1 million now to replace a middle manager, actually, as I begin to think about it.
Just the time it takes to train and the knowledge lost.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Just the time it takes to train, right? And
just
the
to train them, get
and
up and running, meet all the people. You know, it's a whole deal. It takes 6 months before the person is up and running in that position and really leading from their own place and not where it was. And you know, the really hard part of this chapter, Rob, is the fact that we can't treat somebody better than we treat ourselves. And that person, and I've met him. Actually, I went to a game and we were in the box and everything. And he, you know, was kind of normal, but I know his behavior because his president is a dear friend of mine. We go back many, many years, 25 years, working with him and his different companies he's been in. And he's horrible. And it's not that he's mean to other people, he's mean to himself. And this is why this whole golden rule doesn't work. If I treat myself badly, if I do negative things, if I do things that are not good for me health-wise, if I abuse myself, if I hang out with toxic people, how much caring and I'm not taking care of myself. I can't take care of you. I'm not even taking care of me. And that's why the golden rule doesn't work. You can't legislate people. So in effect, they are, right? They are following that. They're treating, in this particular story I was telling you, they're treating the other people the way they treat themselves, which is not good. Because it's not good to go into a screaming tirade in the executive office. I mean, there's just, you know, it screws up your whole bodily functions, adrenal stuff. You got hormonal things. It screws everything up when you go into a rage.
Definitely throws a loop in the next hour or two as you try to regain yourself, huh?
Just to calm down, right? And then the ripple effect of the whole state, you know,
it rarely works.
Yeah, it doesn't. You can't create that kind of a culture unless you're the leader who's dedicated to finding that within themselves first. And then they can transfer that, and then they can react to people from a real place of empathy, compassion, sympathy, understanding, in a much more humane way. But when, you know, that's where we get this whole thing, corporate speak, because they'll say that, you know, we care about our people and we this kind of thing.
There's plenty of care in their wording.
Yeah.
in the wording for those businesses or those types of leaders.
Always. Always. All the words are there, and that's what makes my work so difficult, because when I say it, I'm usually speaking of a whole different thing.
So in relation to the story, then, is consciousness, is the truth, and all the rest is commentary outside of consciousness. Is that the angle? Is that the takeaway?
That's the takeaway. Exactly.
Yeah, man. I definitely see that, like, echoing throughout some of these previous chapters too. Mm-hmm. That being able to just hit the nail right on the head with this one and draw that attention, and using the story too that people may or may not be familiar with, I think is important, right? That all of the rules and things that we're trying to do don't apply if you're not considering that consciousness, that core value, and you're not treating yourself well, and having that consciousness internally.
It's totally hollow. It's inauthentic. It's a turnoff. The premise of what we're doing in this program is the fact that we're living authentic lives as a leader. And that begins with consciousness of our own self. And then, you don't have to legislate kindness when people are kind to themselves. When there's a softness and a heartfeltness about how they treat themselves, and the care. And I speak from experience. For years I was young, I abused, I drank, and doing all this other stuff. I didn't have consciousness. I didn't have love for myself. You can't do that stuff. And I was young and so on and so forth, but stay up all night. I mean, this is this body suit is kind of fragile in a way, and
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And doing that now, I don't do that kind of stuff. And I find that because I'm treating myself better, by I'm more conscious about my own self, that then I don't have to legislate. I don't have to set rules like you were saying to create that really positive behavior. But yeah, there's a little secret under this chapter that I think this commentary needs to point to, and that is, we can't apply the golden rule to other people if we don't consciously apply it to ourselves first. And when I find I'm mistreating people, when I'm short, even just at the store or with a service provider, whatever the case may be, and I look inside, I always find I'm disjointed. I'm in parts. I'm not whole. I'm not conscious, to use our language for this program. I'm unconscious. I'm treating that other person like the other, and I'm not treating them like me because I'm unconscious. I'm not awake. And that to me is, you love technique. That to me is the technique, to take that consciousness, that awareness, in how I communicate with you, how I communicate with my colleagues, how I communicate with customers or clients or whatever the case. That's the red flag. You said the word, you were short. There was, you were coming from fear. You weren't coming from pure consciousness. You were coming from ego, fear of what you're going to lose or what you're not going to get. And that's at the core of almost every mistreatment of another human being. It's always somehow related to that particular element. So
it boils down to that at the end of the day, if you dig deep enough.
Yeah, I think so, don't you?
Yeah, no, I see it.
So when somebody treats other people bad, what happens to me now is I don't get angry with them. I have compassion for them. And I know they're in pain. That is
the key, huh?
I know they're in pain. That people don't behave there. Children babies don't go hit other babies. They look at each other. They do something called parallel play when they're very young, and then as they get towards 6 months and a year, or even earlier, they start to engage not with each other, but they don't hit each other over the head with pots. Like that. It's not a human instinct. Yeah, it's not a human instinct for us to hurt other people. We've been taught that. We've been programmed that way. We've been living in fear, so we think we need that for protection. But the truth is we don't. When we're in consciousness, when we know we are that which was, is, and shall be at the very core of ourselves, and not this personality that we're all projecting. But there's a core of consciousness that's universal to all of us. And when we're in that consciousness, you don't need any rules. You don't need a golden rule. In fact, the golden rule should never even have come up. But that's really the evolution. So the core on this, as I think we repeat a lot of themes in this series from a lot of different angles, and I think we hit a good point on this one.
Yeah, no, well put, Paul. Thank you for that wisdom and insight on this one. And folks, definitely, look at your own leadership opportunities. Look at the level of consciousness within them, and realize are you cutting, or start to look at that. Are you cutting to the truth of it, to the consciousness at the core, or are you getting distracted by the commentary and maybe spending too much time worrying about that? As always, you can continue to join this section by section adventure with us throughout all of Getting High on Leadership. Feel free to start at the beginning or pick and choose as you see fit, and you can grab a book in the show notes down below. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_the conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.